Good evening, YouTube, or good night, YouTube. It is Tire Metalhead Weatherman. Hope you guys have had a good Thursday. Got a little bit to talk about in this video here. We have Friday's obvious severe weather event. There have been a few changes. There has been a little bit of an uptick in the tornado threat. We have a few more models we can look at today. Nam was showing me something a little odd, but I think things have been rectified there. And then we also have a slight risk on Saturday, which we're going to go into. Before I get into it, though, if you guys like what I've been doing, I've kind of been seeing an uptick in views in some videos. Others not so much, but that's fine. But I do see some progress on the channel. I want to thank you guys for that. Of course, to anyone that's been watching and not subscribing, what you waiting for, man? Come on. Give me a hand here. I'm looking forward to improving the content on this channel more and more, but I can't do that without you guys' help. And as long as you guys are watching, I will continue to make videos. That being said, let's get right into it. I'm gonna go straight to the Storm Prediction Center, where we have slight risk for tonight and actually a handful of severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing right now. Main threat for today looked like damaging winds for the most part, but we are definitely expecting an increase in activity come tomorrow evening. On Friday, we are up to an enhanced risk, and this area has increased in coverage since yesterday and has actually migrated a little bit to the west and to the south. So now, when we look at this, Norman and Oklahoma City, you're just outside the enhanced risk, whereas yesterday you were in it. And now Wichita, you guys are still in play, and then Lincoln, you've been out of the entire time. Not too much has changed with the other areas that's slight in the marginal risk. Thunderstorm area has increased slightly in coverage, but let's go over the hazard types, and this is what we're most interested in. We got a significant hail threat now. We have a hatched risk that encompasses all of the 30% area. This includes Wichita. You were just outside of Oklahoma City. Tulsa, you are in it. And pretty much of east central Kansas, you're in there. And then we kind of sneak our way into the border of southeastern Nebraska. But this also goes into our 15%. This is including Oklahoma and Norman in the 2-inch or greater hail threat. Fort Sill, you're in there as well. Wichita Falls, you're right on the line. And McCook, Nebraska, you're in there as well. Lincoln, you are in there as well. Omaha, you're just on the line. So we almost have to act like you guys are in there anyway. Wind threat is honestly the lowest, which is a bit surprising. I do think that there is some potential for some winds greater than 65 knots, especially where where a line of storms will form right ahead of our dry line that's going to pop up later tomorrow evening. I will shoot my shot and say towards McCook, Nebraska, and Colby, Kansas, probably all the way towards Omaha and Lincoln, maybe even Kansas City. Oklahoma City, you might be in that as well as Fort Sill and Wichita Falls. I think there's this area pretty much here. I wish I could draw a line. I'm not advanced with my computer just yet to do that, but pretty much anywhere west of this point right here, I'm a little bit suspicious of there being some slightly stronger winds. And then the main thing that everyone wants to look at, the tornado threat. And that's actually what our enhanced risk is for. It's for the increased tornado threat. We have a 10% chance of tornadoes within 25 miles of a given point. This includes Wichita and pretty much our entire enhanced risk area. This also includes Tulsa and areas in between. And this is also a hatched risk too, so storms could produce potential tornadoes that will be stronger than EF2 as well within 25 miles of a given point. So we're going to have to watch this real close. And And pretty much everyone else in the 5%, you kind of want to be watchful of this as well. That includes Oklahoma City and Norman. This includes Omaha and Lincoln. This includes Kansas City. You have a way to get warnings tomorrow, because some of these storms may very well be nocturnal. Some of these could be embedded supercells as well. And during the nighttime, you shouldn't really be relying on tornado sirens to wake you up. That's not really what they're designed for. So, best friend will probably be a NOAA weather radio, or make sure you have your notifications on your phone if you have a smart home type deal, where you have something like an Alexa device or a home pod or home kit or something. That also has a way of letting you know whenever there's severe weather warnings issued for your area. So just be leery of that if you're in the affected areas tomorrow evening. And we're now going to look at Saturday. We're, of course, past the 48-hour mark, at least according to the National Weather Service, so we can't really go into great detail like I would like to. But you can clearly see slight risk. Some of this will be early morning nocturnal type severe weather from the line of storms that will be rolling through on Friday in Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. But this will, of course, progress east, and then after that, there's supposed to be some redevelopment expected more towards the eastern part of this severe weather threat. And this will include areas like Springfield, Illinois, Peoria, you're in there as well. Chicago, you're in the marginal risk. And then Evansville, Indiana, you're in the slight risk. And pretty much anywhere from the western part of Kentucky and the east and southeastern parts of Missouri, you guys are in there as well. Then towards the northeast corner of Arkansas, you guys need to look out as well. Also, areas like Jackson, Tennessee, this is right on your doorstep here. So you guys might want to watch this closely. You're not currently under a marginal or slight risk right now, but this can easily change. So keep an eye out. Also, we have Chicago under the slight risk. Even Milwaukee and La Crosse, Wisconsin, you guys are in there. And this tries to sneak its way into the western parts of Ohio. That might very well be a threat on Sunday. So we'll have to watch that really closely. Don't really have an idea of the hazard type, but I do know all three hazards are definitely possible. So without further ado, let's actually take a look at the models and see what we got here. My main focus is going to be on Friday. We'll talk a little bit more about Saturday tomorrow. But we'll see what happens. I'm doing a weekend forecast tomorrow as well, of course. Apparently you guys really seem to like that, so I might try to be a little more in depth about Saturday's forecast here, so that way I'm not showing you the same thing twice. But let's get a look at the low-level jet. So we're going to move this about 15 hours ahead. This is when the low-level jet is kind of faded for a little bit, but once we get to about 18Z here, that's when we start to see the uptick begin. Because one little thing here, the low-level jet really tends to kick up into the late evening and overnight hours, pretty much between about, I'd say 7 p.m. local time, and it goes all the way into the early morning hours even. And sometimes we'll even go further than that. But look here, look at that. Look right here. Like, there's a dry line back here, but any storms that form out ahead of it and run into this low-level jet here, there's plenty of spin in the atmosphere. I mean, obviously I'm not looking at storms, so there's no real way for me to know what I'm clicking. There we go. Expecting the storms to be a little bit further to the east, and I was right. But you can clearly see, though, right here, there's our hordeograph, there's our curve, there's our lapse rates and our instability. Definitely has a tornado threat look to it, and you can even see on these little wind barbs right here the directional shear, because as you go further and further up into the atmosphere, you can see how these keep changing direction. So this is definitely indicative of a tornado threat. This is kind of what I was looking for yesterday, but the NAM just wasn't showing it to me. And just kind of made me feel like I was looking a little crazy in front of you guys, which was a little embarrassing. But sometimes it turns out, sometimes it'll be that way. Technology loves to fail us. So move this along a little bit more. And by the late evening and overnight hours, we have a really strong low-level jet at this point. We're getting close to 70 knots in some areas even. Look at that. So I think on the backside of this, we're going to have some damaging straight line winds. And then even after that, there's going to be some very strong lingering wind gusts behind this storm. Also might keep a little bit of an eye on Iowa, because if there is like any sort of upper level low here with any minorly sufficient dew points and temperatures, there could still be a tornado threat lingering around Iowa. So we'll watch this area real closely on the overnight on Saturday, and then this moves out of the Central Plains by Sunday. The winds will not die down though, so be very careful with this. And then on top of that, with the dry line, there is a chance that we may have a elevated fire risk as well. So another thing I wanted to talk about is the fire weather risk is going to be on the uptick this weekend as well. So areas around the southwest and the desert areas, and even in the Central Plains, be watchful of what you're burning. Really, if you can help it, try not to burn anything at all. But ultimately, just be aware of changing conditions, because whenever you have low dew points, like what's going to happen after that dry line passes, and high winds like what you're going to get on the backside of the storm system, it's very likely that the fire danger will increase. So that being said, let's take a look at the temperatures after this storm system rolls through, before and after this storm system rolls through. You can even kind of see it on the temperature map here. You can see where our front is, because we got 50s and 60s right here, and then right here in the higher elevations, we're getting into the 30s and even some 20s. So we watch this go on forward, and then just look at how this Arctic area just moves in right behind it. It's pretty much overtaken all of these Central Plains. But just ahead of it though, when we look real close, we got areas of about 80, some parts of Kansas even reaching 90 degrees before these storms roll in. So there's going to be plenty of juice in the atmosphere from this. Dew points I expect them to be no different. I expect some very rich dew points. And these temperatures kind of push their way to the east as well, along with these storms. So I do think that these storms will hold up for a bit. These will last into the overnight and into early, maybe even mid-Saturday morning. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out here, but that's just part of the game. Sorry guys, I'm getting a little bit tired here. It's been a long day for me once again. Gotta love the busy part of landscaping season. So now we'll take a look at the dew points. Oops. And you can already see even into the morning hours on tomorrow, these dew points are already working their way to the north, and look at that. And you can even see how well defined our dry line is, because right here we got 50s and 60s, and some places even trying to push for 70 on Friday night. And then look behind it, right? Look behind that dry line right here. We get dew points that were sitting in the upper 50s and low 60s, and next thing you know, we're at 14. Like I said, we're gonna be bone dry after this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be hot for the fire weather risk to be off the charts. So just having dew points like this already increases the chances. So definitely be careful around this area. But just look at that. These dew points don't stay dry for too long as well, though, so that is a saving grace. But just in that short time frame where the dew points are at their lowest, like right here, for example, this is when our fire weather risk is off the charts. So please be careful around this area. So we will look at. So we're going to take a quick look at the Cape, if we can. We'll also even take a look at the significant tornado parameter real quick before we look at the reflectivity. Or we'll look at reflectivity and then the significant tornado parameter. So you can see right now there's even Cape for these storms that are ongoing. I think the threat mainly is going to hang around here. Could be a few storms that form up later, a little bit later tonight around Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, we do have sufficient values, and these values kind of hang in there all throughout Friday. But look at this value, right? Look at these values right here. Once we get to Friday evening and to Friday night, we have very sufficient Cape values. We're even I'm starting to see areas pushing 36, maybe even 3,700. This could hit. I don't think this hits 4,000 joules, but it's still very impressive Cape. I mean, this is May this is the end of April and we're coming into May. This is the peak time for severe weather. So these aren't like surprising numbers, but they're very impressive ones no less. Let's not lose sight of that here. So we do get good Cape values on Saturday and going into Sunday. It's a little less certainty. I might take a quick look at that. But Friday is my main concern right now. And let's take a look at the significant tornado parameter, the STP. I don't really know what numbers to expect here. This is the first time I've actually looked at this today. Picked a heck of a time. And then on top of that, this model is relatively fresh off the press too. So it'll be interesting. I'm kind of interested to see what we might get here. I guess this is somewhat of a reaction as well for you guys. So I'm gonna watch this pick up probably right around the 22-hour mark, I think. Yep. Oh, hold the phone. Look at that. Look at that. Look at those numbers right there. We're getting pretty high up there. That's a 5 right there that we're seeing here. Wonder if this is associated with a supercell marginal tornado threat, but it's a high number though. Believe you and me. So we're at a 5.3 here, but yeah, doesn't really show any supercell matches, but it has a very nice hordeograph, nice curve. Very strong wind shear at the surface, might I add. And even at the high level, there's a good bit of shear. There's shear at all levels. Good instability level. Good. And, I mean, the one thing that could be a slightly inhibiting factor might be the lapse rate at the mid-level. It's not that impressive. But at the low level, it's definitely strong. This definitely lends itself towards a significant hail threat as well. So I'm definitely going to be watching this area tomorrow. I would definitely be watching this area tomorrow. I'm sure a lot of storm chasers. Wow, look at that. We have some really high values here. We're getting towards 6 probably for sure. Yep. Look at that. And we do have a supercell match here as well, which is kind of crazy. Hordeograph isn't all that impressive though. The lapse rates definitely are, both the low and mid levels, and even into the high levels. That's kind of crazy. And this is getting into the late evening and overnight hours. This is kind of having a look of maybe even a nocturnal threat. So some of these significant tornadoes that they're talking about could be happening late. So like I said it before a little earlier, I'll say it again. make sure you have a way to get those warnings. Definitely want to have a way to get those warnings. Have a way to be woken up. These storms have a very favorable atmosphere to work with. Cape values are pretty daggone high. Wind shear is very impressive. Lapse rates are impressive. This is all the signs that you would look for a nasty tornado event here. So we watched this kind of die off into the late evening and early morning hours on Saturday. And then the significant tornado threat definitely seems to decrease until the evening hours on Saturday. We'll take a quick look at that. Oops, went backwards again. I still see some values here. The values seem to have increased the further east you go too, so I'll take a quick look at that in a moment. And now we are going to the reflectivity. I'm gonna just kind of jump this real fast, jump this forward real fast here. And this is a very messy situation, very messy convective type mode. So these storms could very well be rain wrapped as well, from what I'm seeing here. Look at the loop one more time, but this kind of has a very eerie mode. The fact that it's going to be convective means these tornadoes are going to be very difficult to chase, very hard to see. Keep on thinking that I'm going to pause with the space button. That lets you know how much music I listen to on here. But I do have this look. I do kind of see a little bit of a look where we have this embedded supercell type setup as well. I'm also very concerned about any sort of storms that form ahead of this line, this dry line here, because that's going to be where, and even then you see, yeah, like I said right here, there's our embedded supercell look. You can see the kind of this little kidney bean type look right on the southern side of this line segment here. That's going to be something that I will be really interested in here. So let's actually take a quick look at the Ohio Valley, see what the radar could look like. We kind of got an idea of what the parameters could be already around here. So this is early Saturday morning into the wee hours. So looks like a line of storms. This dies off, and then we're expecting some redevelopment around here. Very messy, again, convective style setup. Could be a few tornadoes embedded in this, maybe a couple of supercells. Yep, and there we go. Look at that. Not as impressive as Friday, of course, based off the wind barbs here and the instability. But we do have good lapse rates at the mid levels and the upper levels. So that lends itself towards a tornado threat. Maybe not as impressive. The Cape isn't even as impressive here. But that just goes to show that our threat is still high. And then the further south we go, things do look like they get a little bit more impressive. So on the south side of that slight risk threat is going to be the area of interest, it looks like, based off what I'm seeing here. Like I said, still not the most impressive look. This honestly kind of lends itself towards more of a straight line damaging wind threat, but we still can't let our guard down nonetheless. Seems like there's going to be a few embedded tornadoes in these lines of storms and convection here. And then this doesn't really lend itself to being a very big flash flood threat, but we'll watch that real close as well. It's a marginal tornado threat here. Okay. I think the shear at the low level with Saturday is pretty impressive still, but I think the main threat here, especially towards Illinois, is looking like a damaging wind threat. Large hail as well. And that's the end of the model run there. Let's take a quick peek at the significant tornado parameter. I do not expect super high values. Maybe towards Missouri and Arkansas, I think these numbers will be a little bit more impressive. So here we are on Saturday morning. Okay, so Illinois has some decent numbers. Not the most impressive of numbers though. We're cracking into the 2s and 3s. Pretty much something I was expecting. Take a quick look at the Cape real quick. And then that should do it. So here we are on Saturday morning once more. And we still have pretty impressive values, especially towards Arkansas. We're hitting the 2500 joules mark. And this does push all the way up north towards Illinois and towards Indiana here. I also see very impressive numbers around Alabama, which is kind of surprising. Could lend itself to being a marginal risk down here tomorrow. There could be some very active weather around the southeast. We'll talk about that more in the weekend forecast. But that's all I got for you guys tonight. I know this video ran a little bit long, and I apologize for that, but I had to do my due diligence here. But this is all I got for you guys. It's been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. You guys have a good night and stay metal.